But first, those of you who read newspapers will know that the Hunt Report on cable television came out last week. Earlier this week, Lawrence Windley talked to one of the authors of the report, Professor Jim Ring of the Physics Department here at IC, and asked him to outline the main findings of the committee.
The Home Secretary asked us to assume that cable TV was going to go ahead and to tell him, if we could, how to do it without damaging public service broadcasting, that's to say the existing channels of the BBC and ITV. And we made a number of recommendations which we hope will on the one hand give the cable operators the incentive they need to invest the tremendous amount of money that it's going to take, and on the other hand not so much freedom that they will actually damage our existing broadcasting, which we're all very proud.
Yeah, we've heard lots of reports in the sensational press about 30 channels or 40 or 50. Do you really think there are going to be that many?
No, I think it would be madness not to provide for 30 or 40 channels when you're doing the cabling, because that's labour intensive rather than capital intensive. In other words, the cost of digging up the roads is more than the cost of the cable you put in them. So you might as well provide for far more cables than you really think you're going to have. But if you wanted my guess as to what would be available to the average viewer in Britain 10 years from now, he'll have the existing channels plus some out-of-area ITVs. A Welshman living in London could get the Welsh fourth channel. A Londoner living in Scotland might get Thames, plus about 10 other channels probably, I think. So maybe about 20 channels altogether.
How do you see these channels being organised and financed? By millionaires or?
Well, there are two ways. There's two aspects to financing them. One is getting the money to make the stuff in the first place, and that's an entrepreneur. Somebody goes to a merchant bank, borrows the money, just like making a film now. The real way, of course, is how the viewer pays for them, and we foresee three ways. One, the basic subscription to be on the cable at all, perhaps about £10 a month, and you get a number of channels straight away for that basic subscription. Then there'll be subscription channels, and you pay so much for each one, say a channel of feature films in which you can see 5 new films a week for £10 a month, something like that. Then there'll be channels supported by advertising or sponsorship. And it'll be a mix of those three ways that the viewer pays back what has originally been invested by merchant banks, entrepreneurs, whatever, to make the programmes in the first place.
Do you see specific channels being sponsored by your friendly soap manufacturer, say?
Why not? I don't really mind that. The Hunt recommendations are quite clear that such sponsorship must not link the sponsor to the programme material, and that'll be a job for the cable authority to keep an eye on. I mean, there are subtle ways, of course, of a sponsoring body getting its message across, like Mobil Oil sponsoring a programme about the beauties of the Highlands of Scotland, when some people might say they're desecrating the countryside around Aberdeen. So you've got to be careful about sponsorship, but there's a lot of sponsorship now. Most of the major sports channels, which the BBC, sports events, which the BBC shows, are sponsored, as you know, the so-and-so horse show and the something tennis tournament.
Yes, yeah.
So there'll be that sort of
Music Centre.
Absolutely.
Finally, what about the American experience? We've all seen Clive James poking fun at these new chat shows and vicars singing in baths and things. Do you think that'll happen in Britain?
Well, I suppose there'll be some of the wilder experiments as there have been in the States, but most of them will fall by the wayside because people won't pay to watch it, and that will be the acid test of success or not of a cable channel. Our recommendations, if adopted, won't allow pornography, for example, to get very far. We've said that X films that can be shown in the cinema or that are available on video cassette could be shown at any time of day or night on a subscription channel which has electronic locks to stop kids getting at them without the parents knowing. And that's as far as we think it should go. Certainly some of the things you can get on video cassette we don't think the public would want, and we recommend that they shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah. Well, of course, Stoke represents very good value for money being free. Anyway, thanks, Professor Ring, for coming to talk to us.